end up in the shop, and where the city budget comes in and pays for the toricus. Some threats is, and that was also what Edgar was saying, maybe in Belgium there also the idea of a forced civil service, something like the previous military service. It's just discussions going on. We don't know where it will then end up. It will take some time anyhow, but that's one of the possible threats. Also, if we, in the city of Ghent, if we have another, next year we'll have elections, if we have another political coalition, could also change things, since we're depending on the budget of the city. And another specific... also, for salary, the 20,000 is only the toricus that are being exchanged that end up in shops and are being exchanged for euro. There's also a budget for salary. There's a half-time person working specific on this scheme. So that's another 30,000 euro. And then I explained about voluntary work being rewarded. That's a whole discussion. If it's, and it's also in the other schemes, is it labor and possible conflicts with labor union and so on. We also had the digital torque. Everything I explained now was running with paper currency, like the SPICE model. There has been developed an app. It costed a lot of money, and it's used by nobody. Yeah, because it's elderly. It's people who are who don't want to register. Some of them are not documented, illegal. So it's groups for which you do not have to create apps and other elements. So I think it's best to stop here and maybe have some questions if there are. And I try to explain. What I also have to explain is I'm replacing Tom, who is working in the toricus. I'm not working for it. I was involved in just setting up. So that's 4 years ago I was in the scheme, but Tom is now working for it, but he could not come here. So I just try to replace him. So if there are questions, I know I've been very short, but...
You said that one of the weaknesses was that the currency was perceived as a migrant currency, or a
money for the poor.
For the poor. Have you tried? And I guess that one of the reasons is that it's mainly to activate people in that neighborhood. But have you tried to include more wealthier locals into
certainly.
How has that worked?
I've now been focusing specifically on migrants, because that was the focus of this workshop. Yeah. When it started, there was a lot of other questions that So there was a lot of other needs. There's a lot of drug abuse, unemployment, and that's not just unemployment for the migrants, but for the whole population. It's the lowest income neighborhood of the city of Ghent. There's a lot of also migration inside the city. So there's a lot of other problems. There's the local shops that are going down also because of so money leaking out of the neighborhood. So one of the things that at the start we also were rewarding people who are putting some extra pot of flour on before they're in their houses, etc. So we integrated other groups as well. So I mean, it was not just a system for migrants. It had a lot of other options. But these more middle-class groups, well, they have their own LED scheme, for example, and that's why this has the risk of becoming perceived as money for the poor.
graphic with the number of members or
Yep.
users?
Here there's a number of members, active members. Yeah.
I mean, it has changed a lot. What does,
Yeah.
what does that depend on?
The first year, 2010 and 11, there is also including the word of if you put some flowers. So there's a lot of people who did. It was an easy way to earn toricus. 2014-15, you see there's quite an increase. That's people earning toricus for their voluntary work. And in that period, you could participate 5 days a week, which led to the problem that for some people, they came in conflict with earning too much toricus. And in the organization, they decided to restrict it and have it only on Wednesdays. That's why the number is going down.
Yeah.
So it's very specific.
Yeah.
I've heard, but I want to check, has there been interest of other Belgian municipalities to replicate this scheme?
There's other Belgian municipalities. This is in the city of Ghent. It's one very restricted neighborhood. It has been replicated in another one already. In other Belgian cities who live similar problems, they also try to, in their own way, start up similar things in the city of Antwerp. It happens in the city of Turnhout. They're doing some similar schemes. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm back to the problem. I'm back to the problem of trying to include users that are not only poor or stigmatized communities, but are also the established classes or whatever. And you said that it was difficult to integrate them, to use them, to get them using the currency.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Can I comment something if you want?
Yeah, I just have one question. I don't know, Ghent, I haven't been there. Is this area in a place that is difficult to get to if you don't live there? Or is it outside the city? Or
No,
how is it located?
it's inside the city. I don't know if there is a... No, there's not a city plan here, but it's really the old city center.
The city center.
It's the old city center, but it's not the... It's a poor neighborhood, so people don't have to go there. It's not the historical center of Ghent, and it's the part where a lot of migrants live. So the shops are essentially Turkish shops, and you have a lot of kebab, etc. So there's also a lot of students who live there.
Are more affluent around it?
Yes, if you look at the city of Ghent, you have the old historical city center, where you find a lot of tourists. Then you have a circle around it, which was expanding during the 19th century. And in that circle, you find a lot of these less affluent neighborhoods. And beyond that circle, you have also where the rich live. It's also other communities with big villas, etc. But this specific circle is where you find the bad housing and so on. And it's one of these parts around Ghent where they started this project. It was the city council who decided to take that specific neighborhood because there we have the most problems. So in my opinion, of the opinion of our organization, it would be better not to stick only to this specific neighborhood with problems. It would be better to integrate with other neighborhoods. If you focus on this neighborhood, the people living in this neighborhood are exactly the low income, the drug abuse, etc.
So what I like to comment is this is the same for the other city currencies that follow this model, like the Makkie in Amsterdam, that we set up, which is very much like toricus in many ways, also in a deprived neighborhood. And because of these experiences, we decided not to do programs anymore where you have the risk of marginalizing certain groups within your currency, because your currency will never recover from that type of image. Yeah, maybe with a lot of marketing and whatever, but otherwise it's so difficult to do that. So we start a system in the city of Almelo, which is based, Almelo, it's 100,000 people, it's a very poor city, it's the second poorest city in the Netherlands. We started just after summer. It has a lot of similarities with the currencies that we saw, I think. Where the the starting point is the poverty card that people who have a very low income get from the city, with around 350 euros to spend on culture, on sports, and on, for example, washing machine if they need it. And we said we are only going to do this if we can make it a citywide currency where also tourists and middle-class people from the beginning have a lot of reason to join, because otherwise you get the same problem which is find with all these poverty cards, and you are in this corner and people are ashamed to use it, which is really problematic.
Yes.
I have. Can you put the slide where you said the convertibility? So it's 10 torques, €1. So one torque is 10 cents.
Yeah.
So how much torques is paid for an hour of volunteer work?
Well, the rule of thumb is 25 torques for 1 hour. So it's symbolic.
It's very symbolic, right? So we're paying €2.50 per hour.
Yeah.
So this is maybe why the middle class done this, but to rent the garden, the garden spot, how much is it?
I don't know the exact amount. I thought in euros it has been €50. I don't know the exact amount people have to pay in torques to rent a plot.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry.
Because this would be a reason. I mean, I was there 3 months ago. They have 7 shops. So it's not 700. They have 7 shops in the district. So it can be used in 7 shops and for renting the plot. And if you are paying €2.50 per hour, so this is what you get in products in the shop, I think. There must be something. So there must be something with the how much you pay for the rent slot, because otherwise I don't understand why people would.
Because you cannot rent it in euro.
Yeah.
You must pay.
You can't rent it in euro.
No.
Okay.
You must pay with torques.
Okay.
And people like to have such a plot, so they go for torques. They help in cleaning up the streets. They get their torques and have their plot. They can grow vegetables. If they have too many salad at a certain moment, they can sell their salad in the local restaurant. There's a social restaurant, and being rewarded in torques to rent a plot. So that's a circle that works.
So do you know if people use torques mostly to rent the plots, not to buy in the shops?
75% of the torques end up in shops.
At the end, but 75%.
Yeah.
But in one payment, but have they been spent in the plot and then respent in? You
Check if I can find the.
Because when they rent the plot, the